comic book friends, I'm Travis. It's time for an edition of Monster Comic Review, where I talk about comic books that do with superheroes. These are 4 books for the week of October 8th, 2014. Let's jump into some comic books. DC's Batgirl, issue number 35. Probably should have been titled Batgirl issue number 1 at minimum, and maybe not even Batgirl, call her something else, because doesn't really feel like Batgirl to me. There's parts of it that are Batgirl-esque. Well, I guess it could be Batgirl. Batgirl's not the problem. The problem is that it being Barbara Gordon, Batgirl, doesn't make a lot of sense to me. The first few pages are pretty confounding and pretty much kind of feel like, to a large degree, fly in the face of every representation of Barbara Gordon that we've had up until this point. If I'm wrong, please direct me to issues that show Barbara Gordon acting in this fashion that she acts here. I would love to read it. I'd love to see if that's fundamentally where it came from, and why it is that every other writer that's written Barbara Gordon, Batgirl, has written her in a different flavor. And I'm not just talking about Gail Simone's approach to Barbara Gordon as Batgirl and Barbara Gordon as Oracle. Because it just seems really strange the way she is in this. Not to say that a young person in their 20s can act or be the way that she's being here. Don't have a problem with that whatsoever. Don't have a problem with, if you want to call it lifestyle, if you want to call it whatever you want to call it. I get it. I mean, are you okay? Clearly, I'm an old white dude, and so there are certain things maybe I'm not going to get, or it's not for me. Completely behind that, not a problem whatsoever. Clearly understand that not every comic book is designed for me, even me personally, or me as a gender, or me as a age group, or me as a whatever, bio I am. Consider myself a pretty open-minded person to going along with whatever is there. I read all kinds of books, but my issue still is with this is the way this character acting here does not act like Barbara Gordon. Just doesn't. It's such a radical change from how Barbara Gordon is. It just doesn't make sense from what we've seen for 34 issues to suddenly have her be this completely different, have a completely different behavior. And so I understand. I mean, I see where they're wanting to go to, where they're wanting to get to with the character, what they want to represent now, what kind of audience I think they want to draw in with the book. I'm all for an early 20s, go get them kind of a book. I'm old, but I still remember my 20s. I remember the stuff we did. Consider myself a relatively responsible person and did all kinds of crazy stuff. But it just doesn't match up with Barbara Gordon to me. So like I said, if there are other stories of Barbara Gordon acting like this, let me know what they are, because I really, really want to read them. I really do. As for this book, if I look at it as its own book, somebody else is Batgirl taking over the mantle of Batgirl. There's a lot of stuff I actually really liked about it. I like the art. I like the pacing of the art in it. I think it's interesting. I like they're playing with her eidetic memory some here, which was fun. But you could kind of point out there's some places sometimes she forgets stuff, and other times she doesn't. Other times she has a perfect memory. So I don't know if she just does the forgetful thing, so she fits in with everybody else, or she only remembers details when she really, really, really wants to. I don't know. I'm going to hang around because I'm curious to see what it's going to be and whatnot. And another reason I'm going to hang around is because the last volume of Batgirl was out before the New 52 launch. Stephanie Brown, Batgirl. One of my favorite runs in comics. It's such a beautiful, charming book. Was actually really angry that they got rid of the Stephanie Brown Batgirl with the New 52 and put Barbara Gordon back into place. But when that first came out, I read the first issue and I was pissed as hell because I liked Cassandra as Batgirl. And that first issue made me really angry of her just kind of stepping out of her clothes and letting, spoiler, Stephanie Brown become Batgirl. and dropped the book, didn't pick it back up until about issue 5, then started hearing rumblings that it might be good, picked it up, was blown away, and like I said, it's a favorite run of comics, not just Batgirl, but a favorite run of superhero comics. So I'm going to hang around. I'm going to hang around because I'm not going to make the same mistake. But I'm okay with the change, the tonal change with Batgirl. If you go back and watch most of my videos where I talk about issues of Batgirl prior to this, probably most of those issues I'm pretty critical of the representation of Batgirl in that too. I feel like Gail Simone's run has some good stuff in it, but I also feel like Barbara spent way too much time being kind of whiny and could never get her feet underneath her, could never be the go-getter. And I understand that there's an appeal to telling a story with a struggle, and there being a struggle involved there, but at some point there has to be success, or it just becomes, for a superhero comic anyway, just to me becomes too depressing and it doesn't feel like it has any triumph in it. I think there'll be lots more in this one. So the fresh take as far as that goes, I don't have a problem with. It's just some of the stuff that either makes this not feel like Barbara Gordon. Still feels like they should have started this out as a #1 also. So I'm kind of all over the map, obviously, just listening to me talk on the book. Mixed bag of what do I really think of the book. I like her look. I like the look of the book. I don't know. So we'll see. We'll see going forward. I'm on board for a few issues anyway, or an arc, just to kind of see what, it doesn't feel like there's an arc. This is kind of a one and done kind of a deal. Just to see what it is, see exactly how this all plays out. I don't really have a problem with the whole social media aspect of the thing. I think it's kind of funny to see people on Twitter complaining about how much of a social media type thing is in the book. They're on Twitter complaining about it. It's relevant. It's relevant to where we are now, all the social media stuff. It makes perfect sense to me that she would have those types of things, that would be part of her life. And this whole cover of her taking a selfie, that makes sense. It's part of a lot of modern 20-year-olds' lives. It's just some of that stuff makes perfect sense. So I don't have a problem with any of that. I appreciate that actually, because it makes more sense. It makes them seem more up to date, more hip, if hip's a bad thing. Sorry. Yeah. So I don't know. Wouldn't know where I would rank this book at. I don't know. It being Barbara Gordon, some of the stuff that's in there I found bothersome. Her drinking to the point of not remembering the night before. Having a big makeout section, not really remembering it. That part kind of bothers me because it just strikes me as not being in Barbara Gordon's behavior. The thing at the end where she kind of shrugs it off, that the roommate then, after breaking up her and the guy she was, playing kissy face with, then she ended up sleeping with him. I don't know. That, to me, that just seems weird. That just seems strange. Yeah, I don't know. That's the parts that really, really throws me. So, like I said, we'll see going forward on exactly what's going on. Batman issue number 35. I actually have the, this is the October, so it's the monster variant covers. So I like the monster variant cover of Batman, so I got it instead. Kind of a, here's the Lord Vampire Batman and his brides down there. Great cover. Really got a kick out of it. So I thought this issue was fun. Beginning of Endgame. He's at a new location in the middle of the city. All that kind of stuff makes sense in some degree. That to have this kind of location and whatnot, that's all kind of interesting. We see him working with some people in it that is either surprising or not surprising, depending on whether or not you're reading Batman Eternal. If you're not reading Batman Eternal, who the hell is she? I don't think they really explain a whole lot in there. That's kind of messed up. As far as that goes, I am reading Batman Eternal, so it works for me as far as that goes. And then we have this kind of age-old thing. The Justice League comes after Batman for some reason, and he has to contend with them. And I kind of like how he does that. And I'm the type of person who's normally pretty sick of Batman being in giant robotic suits to fight stuff. Makes perfect sense here that that'd be the case. I'll spoil that much for you. He ends up in another suit to deal with the Justice League, and he kind of handles them, and I like the way he handles each one of them. I'm perfectly okay with that. It was just a kind of a fun read. The villain that's implied at the end of this, if you haven't heard, I don't know, do we need those stories now? Don't know, but we'll find out. I didn't hate it. And I like the backup story in this thing too. It's penned by Tinian, and I think Tinian does decent backup stories, it always seems. And Kelly Jones on art. I like it for that. This short little story, giving us some background on some Arkham people and their foretelling of a future of what's to come, and he is coming, and I won't tell you who that he is, but I kind of like those stories. You get some Devil in the Crossroads kind of things and some other stuff that I just kind of appreciate too. So I liked all the way around. That was just kind of a fun book. We'll see what it turns into, but yeah. Some people are poo-pooing it, and there are writing tropes in here that I don't even mind those writing tropes that some people are complaining about. I thought it was an enjoyable issue. Oh, the bad side about that, I forgot to mention that part, and I guess I should, is that there's a little caveat at the title page that says this all takes place after the events of Batman Eternal. After the events of Batman Eternal. And Batman Eternal is on issue 27. We think it goes like 60 issues. So, you know what characters live through Batman Eternal as far as that goes. You know what the conditions of people are by the time Batman Eternal is done. Batman's got a new location by the time Batman Eternal is done. Why are we reading Batman Eternal again if we've just had it all basically spoiled to us in another book? That sucks. That doesn't make any sense at all. I don't understand that. My understanding is that part of the reason that Scott Snyder signed on to Batman Eternal is it was going to be a way for him to move Gotham and the Denzians of Gotham to the point and have Gotham in a place that he wanted it in to continue to tell the Batman stories that he wanted to tell. So he couldn't have found other stories to write until Batman Eternal was done and then start these stories that are in the new Gotham and the way that he wanted it. I think he could have. I think it's a shame. I think that's the one thing that really stinks about this is the fact is this takes place after Batman Eternal. So some of the threats that are going on in Batman Eternal are less of a threat now because people survive. And they're not permanently damaged. There's no permanent significant outcome, it seems to be at this point. So that sucks. That sucks. That's the part that sucks about the book. Speaking of Batman Eternal issue number 27. I did not notice this until I watched somebody else's review of this, that, of course, you got Catwoman and Batman in the front here, but then Hush's face is behind it. I didn't even notice that as I was reading it, looking at it up close. Oh, let's not bend the comic book. There's some amusing parts in this. There's some great action shots. I like the art. Some fun things with Killer Croc. I train Killer Croc into this kind of almost a good guy. He's willing to bite people in half if he has to save the street people that he protects. But he's on this mission to protect these kids. We get a little bit of smart Stephanie Browning here, probably too smart for her own. She operates a little better here than what you think she would when she just recently, within a few days, a week at most, that she's been this kind of quasi-spoiler and she's already basically a superhero, pulling superhero stunts and that sort of thing. I don't know, that part's I'm having problems with. I'm having problems with the conception of the execution, not the conception, but the execution of Stephanie Brown. How she went from, spoiler, and how she's just how quickly she became the spoiler and stuff. So, yeah. But otherwise, it's been fun, as Batman Eternal continues to be for me. Just kind of a wild romp on a weekly book. Let's see, Earth 2. Earth 2 is another book that has a significant problem in that at the title page, we once again get a thing saying this all takes place after the issue 1 of the weekly book that has to do with Earth 2. I am not getting that weekly book. So I have some deep, deep concerns that basically what's going to happen is the weekly book is going to gut Earth 2. It's going to gut the regular book. And if it does, I'll end up dropping this book. This issue in particular, had some interesting stuff going on in it a little bit. Shows us some history of some of these people. There's some interaction going on between Huntress and the Batman of Earth 2, because the Batman of Earth 2, of course, is Bruce Wayne's dad, Thomas. As far as Huntress is concerned, her grandfather is dead. That's what drove her father to be the crazy, righteous hero that he was. So she's not really accepting the fact that he is her grandfather. Of course, he's just like, oh my gosh, you're some of my family. I want to protect you. I want to love you. And she just really wants nothing to do with it. We find out that Power Girl had a prior relationship with this Superman of Earth 2, that as children they knew each other, and they were both launched off into rockets at the same time, and obviously were separated somewhere along the way and came to Earths at different times. Sort of a deal or whatever. Once again, this is another monster cover. That's why it looks so crazy. So it was okay, but there's significant things missing. And so if that continues to be the case, if it continues to linchpin on the weekly book, I will be dropping this and I'll be getting none of them. Because my main title shouldn't be that pinned down by a weekly book. That's crazy. So there you go. And finally this week, Clarion issue number 1. I'm taking one for the team on this. I think most of the people that I talk with on Twitter and here on YouTube about collecting comic books, we've discussed Clarion and might have been interested in it, but Anisetti's writing it, and all of us, I think, are universally not very excited by Anisetti's writing and in the here and now. I was a huge fan of hers back in the day when she wrote for Marvel, when she wrote great Daredevil stories, created great characters. Those were all great, great times. She was an awesome editor. She edited some incredible books during those era and whatnot. But since she's jumped on DC during the New 52 era, I haven't liked anything that she's read. And I've tried everything, every title that she has written on, I have tried and then dropped. So why, Travis? Why would you pick up this, knowing that, and with that kind of track record? Catwoman, Katana, Green Arrow. Yeah, I think those 3. That kind of track record. Why would you jump on another book? Well, I like Trevor McCarthy's art. I think he's a decent artist. He was the secondary artist on Batwoman when J.H. Williams was doing the book. When J.H. Williams wasn't drawing an arc, he was the person to do the arc. I think he did a great job there. He gets to be more of his own here, and the art is incredibly strong. Uses some of J.H. Williams' techniques, but they feel more like his own. He doesn't take them to the extreme of the paneling that J.H. Williams does. So it works in here. The book looks really gorgeous as far as that goes. And I really like Clarion. I like Witch Boy. Most people know him from Grant Morrison's run on the Seven Soldiers of Victory. He's actually a Kirby character. He appeared in Kirby's Demon run back in the 70s. I think like issue 4 of Demon, I think, is the first appearance of Clarion. Witch Boy. And but Grant Morrison's the one that kind of fleshed the character out, added this whole limbo land that he comes from, and all of this stuff. So excited by the character, excited by the art. We'll try it out and see what happens. Anisetti's kind of strange dialogue and whatnot actually works for this title so far in that sense, because they're all kind of odd. Witch Boy's kind of an odd character. The people he meets are all odd. He gets a ride from kind of this limbo dimension to Earth. He rides with in a car with Beelzebub, Beelzebub rides him down, gives him some words of wisdom as to how to act and not act while he's on Earth. Don't be blue, you know, hide yourself, that sort of thing. Well, he ends up finding this kind of halfway house for magically inclined people, it seems. And it's your typical magic in that it has kind of fairy and folklore and that sort of stuff. And across town, there seems to be an opposing magic. There's a techno club, and their magic is technologically steeped, kind of a thing. And there's a conflict between those two, and they're kind of fighting over. Really, I didn't have a peanut. Excuse me. If I was an editor, I would edit that out. I apologize. Anyway, they're kind of fighting over the magic souls that are there. And so it's kind of interesting right now. It's interesting to see what's going to happen. So I'm on board for a few issues. This issue wasn't horrible. It was actually kind of interesting. I like the ideas. Like I said, the art is great in it. There hasn't been enough Ann Nessetti-ness in it to make me think that I shouldn't like it yet. So I'm on for a little while. We'll check it out, see how it works out. I don't know. I don't know if this book will last a long time or not. I don't know what kind of other support it has. Haven't seen anybody really talking about it and whatnot, but I haven't done a whole lot of searching yet because I like to talk about my books before I go and read other people's talking about books, so I'm not too polluted by other people's opinions. But yeah, I liked it. I thought it was pretty interesting. Interesting read to start out with. We'll see where it goes. That's my superhero books. Thanks for tagging along, and I'll see you next week.